Ever felt a lump and thought, what if? It's a fear so many of us have, especially as we get older.
It really is.
But thankfully, we have mammography to help us.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't always around.
Right.
And today we are diving deep into the history of mammography.
Yeah.
It's a journey that's part medical marvel, part detective story.
I love that. It's amazing how much this technology has evolved.
It really has.
From, its humble beginnings to the sophisticated tools we have today.
Exactly. And for our listeners in that 45 to 60 age range, this history is especially relevant.
Oh, for sure.
So get ready to uncover those aha moments, the passionate individuals who really pushed for progress, and, even the controversies that still swirl around mammography.
I think you'll find it fascinating.
Oh, I think so, too.
Even a bit surprising at times.
Oh, yeah.
Should we start at the very beginning?
Yeah, let's start at the very beginning.
With a discovery that changed everything. X-rays.
Okay, back to the late 1800s we go. It's 1895 when Wilhelm Röntgen stumbles upon this invisible ray that can see through the human body.
Talk about a game changer.
Total game changer.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't long before someone thought, hey, what if we use these X-rays to look inside whale breasts?
Of course.
But hold on, wasn't the early use of X-rays a bit of a Wild West situation?
Oh, it totally was.
Yeah.
Yeah, just imagine. Long exposure times limited understanding of the risks.
Yeah.
Some patients even experienced, shall we say, unintended side effects.
Yikes. But amidst all of that, a researcher named Albert Salomon in Berlin saw the potential. In 1913, he became the first to X-ray breast tissue.
Wow.
Although it was post-mortem.
Okay.
Still, he recognized that this technology could help detect cancer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Salomon was a visionary.
He was.
But it took a while for his ideas to catch on.
Understandably.
It wasn't until 1927 that we saw the first X-ray of a living person's breast.
Wow.
A German surgeon named Otto Kleinmid took that leap.
Wow, imagine being that first patient. So we're talking about pretty rudimentary images at this point.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What were the next steps in refining the process?
Well, in the 1930s and 40s, researchers like Stafford Warren and Raoul Leborgne started experimenting with techniques to improve image quality.
Okay.
They explored things like stereoscopic views to get a more three-dimensional perspective.
Interesting.
Anything else?
And here's where it gets interesting for anyone who's ever had a mammogram. They introduced breast compression.
Okay, I can see how compression might make the images clearer, but I'm guessing it wasn't the most comfortable experience.
Probably not.
No.
But the quest for better imaging was driving these innovations. And, this era also saw the birth of the term mammography itself in 1937.
Oh, wow.
It was becoming a specialized field.
And as with any new field, there are pioneers who really champion the cause. One such figure is Robert Egan,
Yes.
a radiologist driven by personal tragedy to refine mammography techniques and advocate for their use as a screening tool.
Egan's story is incredibly compelling. It is.
He faced a lot of resistance, even ridicule,
Really?
for his relentless focus on mammography. Some people even gave him some pretty crude nicknames because of it.
Wait, really? Why was he so controversial?
Well, at the time, the medical community wasn't convinced that mammography was effective as a screening tool. Remember, this is before we had large-scale studies proving its benefits.
So it's going against the grain?
Challenging the status quo.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. He sounds like a real trailblazer.
He was.
He wasn't alone, right? Weren't there other researchers exploring mammography around the same time?
Absolutely. There were other key figures like Jacob Gershon Cohen, but I think the story of Helen Ingleby is particularly fascinating.
Why is that?
Well, she was one of the few women researchers in this field at the time.
Oh, wow.
Ingleby worked with Gershon Cohen to document the normal changes that breasts undergo due to things like menstruation and aging.
That sounds crucial.
Yeah.
Why is understanding those normal changes so important?
Think about it. To spot something abnormal, you need to know what normal looks like, right?
Right.
Their research helped radiologists distinguish between natural variations and potential signs of cancer.
That makes perfect sense. It's like having a baseline for comparison.
Precisely. And their work paved the way for more accurate diagnoses.
Now, the 1960s saw a game-changing study that really solidified the life-saving potential of mammography, the HIP study.
Ah, yes. This was a landmark trial led by Philip Strax,
Okay.
another researcher who had a personal connection to breast cancer.
Probably.
He had lost his sister to the disease.
Oh, wow.
So he was passionate about finding a way to detect it early.
I can only imagine how that personal experience would fuel his research. So what made the HIP study so significant?
It was the sheer scale of it. They enrolled over 62,000 women.
Whoa, that's
It
massive.
was. It was the first study to provide concrete evidence that mammography could reduce breast cancer mortality. And to ensure accessibility, they went to extraordinary lengths.
What do you mean?
They converted a van into a mobile mammography center and drove it to workplaces so women could participate during their lunch breaks.
Wow, talk about dedication.
Right.
I guess you could say they really took mammography to the people.
They did. And that study really changed the game. It paved the way for wider acceptance of mammography as a screening tool and led to some pretty major advancements in the technology itself.
Like what?
Well, for one, it led to the development of the first dedicated mammography machine, the sonography, in 1965.
Okay, now we're getting into the technology I'm more familiar with. Tell me more about the sonography and how it revolutionized the field.
The sonography was a game changer. It was specifically designed for mammography,
Okay,
which allowed for more precise imaging and lower radiation doses.
that makes sense. Specialized equipment usually leads to better results.
Exactly. And this innovation, coupled with the findings of the HIP study, really propelled mammography into the mainstream.
So the 1960s were a pivotal decade for mammography.
For sure.
But I'm guessing the story doesn't end there, right?
No.
What happened in the following decade?
The 1970s were a time of both progress and growing pains for mammography. It was the era of the war on cancer, which led to increased funding for research and public awareness campaigns.
Ah, yes. I remember those public service announcements encouraging women to get mammograms.
Exactly. And there was a major initiative called the Breast Cancer Detection Demonstration Project, which provided free mammograms to thousands of women.
That must have had a huge impact on access to screening.
It did. But this period also saw the emergence of some important debates about mammography, particularly its efficacy for women under 50, concerns about radiation risks, and the potential for overtreatment.
Oh, so this is where things start to get a bit more complicated.
Precisely. The story of John C. Baylor, a statistician with the National Cancer Institute, really highlights these emerging concerns.
Okay.
He publicly challenged the idea of widespread mammography screening, arguing that the benefits for younger women might not outweigh the risks.
Wow. So even as mammography was gaining popularity, there were voices of caution urging a more nuanced approach.
Exactly. It's a reminder that science is rarely black and white.
Yeah.
There are always different perspectives and ongoing debates as we gather more evidence and refine our understanding.
So these debates set the stage for a period of regulation and modernization
Yeah.
in the following decades, right?
That's right. In the 1980s and 90s, we saw governments and medical bodies stepping in to establish quality standards for mammography, ensuring consistency and improving the overall quality of care. And then the arrival of digital mammography in the 2000s was another huge leap forward.
Okay, that's the type of mammography I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
No more bulky X-ray films.
Exactly. Digital images meant results were available almost instantly, and the technology offered better clarity, which is especially helpful for women with dense breast tissue.
Hold on, you've mentioned breast density a few times. What does
Yeah.
that mean, and why is it important when we're talking about mammograms?
It's a great question, and it's something every woman should understand, especially those of us in the 45 to 60 age range.
Right.
Essentially, dense breasts have more fibrous and glandular tissue,
Mhm.
which can appear white on a mammogram. And guess what else shows up as white on a mammogram?
Tumors.
Exactly. So denser breasts can make it harder for radiologists to spot those small early signs of cancer. It's like trying to find a snowflake in a snowstorm.
Okay, that's a powerful image. So what can women do if they have dense breasts?
First off, it's important to know your breast density.
Okay.
Your doctor can tell you based on your mammogram. If you have dense breasts, it doesn't necessarily mean you're at higher risk for cancer, but it does mean you might benefit from additional screening methods like ultrasound or MRI.
So it's about having a more personalized approach based on your individual needs.
Exactly. And this is where those open conversations with your healthcare provider are so crucial.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, advocate for yourself, and explore all the options available to you.
It sounds like the evolution of mammography has been this constant push and pull between embracing the potential of the technology while also acknowledging its limitations and seeking ways to improve it.
You've hit the nail on the head. And that push and pull continues even today. We're now seeing cutting-edge technologies like 3D mammography, also known as tomosynthesis.
I've heard about that. Isn't it like getting a 3D image of the breast?
It is. It takes multiple X-ray images from different angles, which are then reconstructed into a three-dimensional image. Think of it as being able to flip through pages of your breast tissue rather than just looking at a single flat image.
Wow, that sounds incredible. What are the advantages of 3D mammography?
Well, it allows radiologists to see more detail, which can lead to earlier detection of smaller tumors, especially in those with dense breasts.
Okay.
Plus, it can reduce the chances of being called back for additional imaging because of something that turns out to be benign.
So it's about both accuracy and peace of mind.
Exactly. But even with all these advancements, we're still grappling with some fundamental questions. The debates about optimal screening guidelines, especially for women under 50, and the role of breast density in those recommendations continue to evolve.
It's almost as if the more we learn, the more we realize how much we still don't know.
That's the beauty of science. It's a never-ending quest for knowledge. And speaking of ongoing exploration, there's a lot of excitement about the potential role of artificial intelligence in mammography.
AI, like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Right.
What role could AI possibly play in reading mammograms?
It's not science fiction anymore. Researchers are developing AI algorithms that can assist radiologists in interpreting those mammogram images. Think of it as having a second set of highly trained eyes scanning for any subtle abnormalities.
So it's like having an extra layer of analysis to catch things that might be missed by the human eye.
Exactly. And it's not just about improving detection rates. AI could also help personalize screening recommendations based on an individual's risk factors. Imagine a future where mammograms are tailored to your specific needs, potentially reducing unnecessary biopsies or anxiety from false positives.
That sounds like a win-win. Early detection and less stress. Sign me up.
But let's shift gears a bit. We've been focusing mainly on the technological advancements in mammography. Well, what about access to this technology?
Right.
Is it equally available to everyone?
Unfortunately, that's a complicated question.
Yeah.
While mammography is widely available in many parts of the world, disparities in access persist.
What factors contribute to these disparities?
Well, it's a mix of things. Socioeconomic status, geographic location, race, ethnicity, even cultural beliefs, and healthcare systems.
So even with this incredible technology, not everyone benefits equally from it. That's disheartening.
It is. For example, women in rural areas might face challenges finding providers or traveling long distances to access mammography services. And for women without insurance or adequate coverage, the cost can be a significant barrier.
I hadn't even considered those financial barriers. It's a reminder that healthcare is not just about science and technology, it's also about social and economic factors. Absolutely. And we can't forget the cultural and linguistic barriers that some communities face. Imagine trying to navigate the healthcare system in a language you don't fully understand, or having to overcome cultural stigmas associated with breast health.
It's a stark reminder that even with the most advanced technology, access and equity remain critical challenges.
They do. And it underscores the need for continued advocacy education and systemic changes to ensure that everyone has an equal opportunity to benefit from the power of mammography.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've journeyed from the accidental discovery of X-rays to the development of sophisticated 3D imaging and even the potential of AI.
Yeah.
It's been fascinating to trace the evolution of this technology.
It has, and it's important to remember that this is not just a historical journey. It's a story that continues to unfold, directly impacting the lives of millions of women around the world.
Speaking of impact for our listeners out there, especially those in the 45-60 age group who are thinking about or already undergoing mammograms, what are the key takeaways from this deep dive into the history of mammography?
Well, first and foremost, I want to emphasize that mammography has undoubtedly saved countless lives. It's a powerful tool for early detection, which, as we know, is crucial in the fight against breast cancer.
But you've also highlighted that it's not a perfect tool.
That's right. It's important to understand both the benefits and the limitations of mammography. It's not foolproof. There's always the possibility of false positives, false negatives, and overdiagnosis leading to unnecessary anxiety or interventions.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? How should they approach mammography knowing both its strengths and its weaknesses?
I think the key is to be an informed and empowered patient. Have open conversations with your doctor, ask questions, and understand your individual risk factors. And remember, mammography is just one piece of the breast health puzzle.
What else should women be doing to stay on top of their breast health?
Regular self-exams are crucial. It's about knowing your body, being aware of any changes, and reporting them to your doctor promptly. And of course, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, eating a balanced diet, exercising regularly, and limiting alcohol consumption can play a significant role in reducing your risk.
So it's a holistic approach.
Yeah.
Technology, self-care, and open communication with your healthcare provider.
Exactly. It's about taking charge of your health, understanding your options, and making informed choices that feel right for you.
It's empowering to think of it that way, not just passively following recommendations, but actively participating in our own health journey.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of mammography, the research that's happening right now, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
You mentioned AI earlier. What else is on the horizon? What advancements are researchers exploring that could further revolutionize how we detect and treat breast cancer?
Well, we touched on contrast enhanced mammography.
Right.
That technique uses a special dye to highlight blood vessels in the breast, making tumors stand out more clearly on the images.
It's like giving the radiologist a magnifying glass,
Yeah.
right? Making those hard-to-see tumors practically jump out of the image.
Exactly. It's especially helpful for women with dense breasts, where traditional mammograms can be more challenging to interpret.
So it's adding another layer of detail, increasing the chances of finding cancer early. What else is getting researchers excited these days?
There's a lot of buzz around molecular breast imaging, or MBI.
Yeah.
It uses a radioactive tracer that's absorbed by cancer cells, making them light up on the scan. It's incredibly sensitive at detecting even small tumors.
Wow, so it's like shining a spotlight on the cancer cells.
Yeah.
Are there any downsides to this approach?
Well, it does involve a small amount of radiation exposure, and it might not be suitable for everyone. But for women who are at high risk for breast cancer or have dense breasts, it can be a valuable tool.
It sounds like there's a whole toolkit of options emerging. What's the ultimate goal of all this research?
The holy grail, so to speak, is to develop screening methods that are not only highly accurate, but also personalized and minimally invasive.
So moving away from the one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. Imagine a future where your risk factors, your genetics, your lifestyle, it all gets factored into determining the best screening strategy for you.
That's incredible. It's like taking all those pieces of the puzzle, your personal history, the latest technology, the expertise of your doctor, and putting them together to create a truly individualized approach to breast health.
That's the vision, and we're getting closer to it every day.
It's inspiring to think about all the possibilities. We've come a long way from those grainy X-ray images of the early 1900s. Who knows what the future holds?
Indeed. The journey of mammography is a testament to human ingenuity, perseverance, and the unwavering pursuit of better health outcomes. It's a story that continues to unfold, driven by scientific curiosity and a deep commitment to improving women's lives.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the history of mammography, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this conversation? What's the most important message you want to leave them with?
I think it's this: stay informed, stay engaged, and stay hopeful. Knowledge is power, and when it comes to breast health, being proactive and advocating for yourself can make all the difference.
Well said. And for our listeners, if this conversation has sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to keep exploring. We'll be sharing some resources in the show notes, including links to reputable organizations and websites where you can delve deeper into the topics we've discussed today. Remember, this is your health, your journey. Take charge, ask questions, and never be afraid to seek the information and support you need. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay empowered. And